Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the No Close Show. As always, Scott Carson, excited to be here with you today. And today, I just wanted to share with you guys last week. I know this week I've kind of been a little slower. We got two episodes out that we pre-recorded and kind of took it easy a little bit. Not only did we have just basically, and not want to say a frozen storm, not really a lot of snow. We had a little bit of ice, but really freezing temperatures here in Austin this week. So it was kind of slow, not much people doing stuff, but just recovering and catching up on my sleep and rest from our Austin note buying workshop that we held last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As I record this, it's February 21st. We're a week out from the end of the month and us being 1/6 of the way through 2025. It's hard to believe time is flying. But I wanted to share a couple insights with you guys on what I took away from the workshop. Now, when you have a workshop, there's a lot of work that goes into it. Big shout out to Stephanie Goodman. Could not have done it without her. A lot of the small moving parts get handled by her, making sure that the room is reserved and making sure everybody gets what they need. And, we're always, we always enjoy entertaining, making sure people never walk away from Austin, Texas, in our event thinking that they didn't get fed. Coffee, breakfast, tacos, brisket, barbecue, dinner on Friday night, a happy hour on Thursday night, bringing in, pizza for them on Sunday for a working lunch to work through things. And it's always good to make new friends. Now, it was a little bit smaller workshop. We expected about 30, 35, but through, weather, the flu, people not being able to get off of work, we ended up at right about, I think 20 was the final amount, which is A-okay. I like small events. It's not the smallest class I've ever taught. It's not the biggest class, obviously, but that's okay. It gives me a chance to communicate and get to know those folks that are there. And I'll give you a bit of a breakdown. Obviously, we had a couple of our coaching students come in, John and Veronica from New Jersey. They're transitioning their full-time and looking more so to be in note investing full-time is a big chunk of what they're doing. So we're excited about them. They were there. We had a hard money lender out of Houston, him and his wife, who've been doing basically hard money lending on their own. And so big shout out to you guys, Sunita and John out there. We had a hotelier, our buddy Keith Holland, one of our coaching students, has bought a hotel, working through it. He came back and, man, I wish I was doing more notes. He shared a deal that he bought that turned out to be really good. Basically, it's $15,000 purchase on a double wide on 17 acres in Arkansas. After a year of fooling around with the guy and being really too busy with his other stuff going on, the borrower pays off, and 90,000 plus dollars ends up accounts, so he makes like a 600% return in his first year. Not bad on that deal, right? We had a guy coming from land. I mean, not from land, but from gas and oil. Who's got a ton of money to put to work in it. He's looking to buy a portfolio. Excited what he's going to do. We had a realtor broker from Arkansas come in. His buddy, who's a car dealer, came in, and it was kind of funny him getting the lights going off for buying notes, and how his car business selling on terms is a lot like buying notes, which is great. We also had somebody originally from Peru who bought a few notes in Florida a few years ago coming in. And we had another coaching student, Michelle and Rick, come in who bought, I don't know, about probably 100 notes come in on Saturday and hang out with us and get a recap. And then, of course, our buddy Dale from Minnesota is coming down to learn. Note investing has been doing a great job. He understands the origination side of things, but he's learned more about the non-performing side. And the great thing was seeing light bulbs going off in a variety of things for people. People realizing like, hey, we've done a really great job as a husband, wife, spouse, or as a solopreneur, but we need to learn how to leverage our time. We're working our butt off. We're leveraging with bank financing. We need to spend a little bit more time raising our own capital. That was one great thing across the whole weekend. Everybody really enjoyed that. And as I'm talking with people over barbecue or tacos or whatever it is throughout the weekend, you see a fear kind of pops in their eyes. And when you're at the front of the room, you see different things. You look for reactions. Now, you look for people to ask questions first and foremost. That's always a good insight into what people are thinking about or what their hot buttons are. They don't understand it. And we had plenty of people asking questions. And so I say no question asked, but when I'm teaching something, especially on Saturday when we're going into the raising capital side, seeing that the uncomfortability that people will have with that. Or they've done it themselves. They've done one way by flipping properties using hard money loans. Then the possibility of them having to go out and raise capital scares them. And I can understand it. Everybody feels that way. Till you've raised private capital, it's an intimidating thing. I had a call this morning with one of my coaching students. So yeah, I got to start marketing more. I was like, it's a skill. It takes time. But I shared a story this weekend. I don't think I've shared it as an episode on here before. I may have in some of the earlier episodes, stuff like that. So I thought it was a good time to recap it because I want to share with you guys the first time I raised private capital and the story behind the story. This was a dud, but it built a belief in me, a belief, not a belief, a belief in me that I could raise capital. And I'll give you this. This goes back to literally like one of the first deals I was bidding on. I was working, my buddy Boyd and I run a mortgage company, Aerial Capital, out of the SMI funding offices and stuff in Austin, Bob Leonetti, Jamie Kale, and stuff like that. And I started taking what I was learning at all these events that I was going to, the Ronald Grant events and stuff like that, going and starting to network at the local real estate clubs because I'm motivated to get that done. I was like, I need to start learning. I need to start taking advantage of this amazing opportunity I have here to be mentored by Bob and Jamie and other people that I was coming across, all the people I was hearing speak at the Ronald Grant seminars besides just Bob and Jamie's. I really need to take this opportunity and apply myself. Yes, did the fears that we didn't have any money come in my head? Yes. I mean, we were making some money. I was starting to make some money as a mortgage broker, but not enough to go buy my own property. And I had this really I had this blockage. I'm just going to tell you guys, like many of us out there, we have a blockage of what we think we can and cannot do, right? And I'll get to the blockage later on somebody that didn't show up to the event. And I'm going to these real estate clubs. I'm networking here in Austin, Texas, and these two guys get up one night and they're sharing this deal that they have down in Corpus Christi. Now that gives me a hot button right up. That's my backyard. It's where I grew up. I've got friends down there. And it's roughly about 29 units. It's a mixture of like a two-story eightplex, duplexes and triplexes, and it's worth about 1.1 is what they put the comps in. They're looking for like 550 on the deal. I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. And they're handing out flyers, kind of just basics with what rents are. It's a pro forma with some photos, exterior photos of the properties. Okay. I mean, it's putting something together. I'm like, great. They wanted a $1,500 like earnest money check and a $500 option fee to put under contract, stuff like that. I was like, okay, well, I didn't have that basically extra. So I took that, back to the offices, and the next morning I'm sitting there looking at things on this thing, and Bob walks in and said, what are you looking at there, Scott? You got a deal on this. And I asked him to take a look at it. He's like, oh, this looked pretty decent. I mean, the cash flow could be pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, I know this area. I think the comps are pretty much it. He goes, well, great, make an offer. I'm like, well, I don't have the money. I don't have a $500,000 or more. Or the $600K I figured I would need because the guy said it only needed about $10,000 in maintenance to get it completely full. You're right. Trust but verify. I'll just take that in a second. And he goes, no, man, make an offer. We'll help you raise capital. I'm like, okay. And you get the thing, I'd already been working for Bob about 6 months and been gone like every other weekend over a 6-month period. I was at a conference with 500 investors, minimum 100 other real estate investors doing deals, right? And if you don't know Ron LeGrand has been around for 40 plus years. Used to be an old auto mechanic. He's like the grandfather of real estate. And Ron did a really great job of marketing, getting people to these events. He targeted doctors and dentists by buying whole membership lists in the states he was in his class. And he targeted those folks. People coming to these events usually had money, right? A full-time career, a full-time company, and they're looking to do some things. They had money. And I had been doing a good job prior to this conversation with Bob, taking business cards and contacts that I meant, not only just for our mortgage business and the apps that we were getting, because we were starting to really do a good job on the mortgage we're doing, but I was starting to build a list. I was starting to build my contact list, my hot list of investors, right? And I was putting everybody's business cards or contact information into a spreadsheet that I could mail to or just keep track of. So I thought at some point, maybe I'll get to the point where I'll do it, but I'm going to take the opportunity because this is what I was told how to market from a much smarter guy. I'm going to take the opportunity to do this, right? So Bob tells me, hey, go take a look. It's good to help you raise capital, get something. So I was like, okay, so what should I do? Start calling some people. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. I'm like, okay, great. So for like the next 3 hours, I made a bunch of phone calls. I start calling people that I'd met and were friends with at these different events. Some people had money, other people didn't have money. I just wanted to run it by. And I remember over that course of 3 or 4 hours, I probably talked to like 20 people. All right. Now get this. I hadn't done really any deals. I mean, I had a couple properties that went south prior to this, rentals that we got out of in my own primary residence, but that was my experience. I was still kind of gun shy from doing that because I'd faced issues, right? Trying to do it all myself and what I knew, my limited ability in buying rental properties at full value. And then getting laid off from the previous job, and then also my tenants getting laid off, right? So that's the story of my background, which I wasn't very confident, right? But I thought this was a deal. And being in Corpus, I knew the area, I knew rehab crews, I knew realtors down there. I was looking for stuff down in Corpus. I thought this would be a great thing. So lo and behold, I'm making these phone calls for 3, 4 hours, and I get 3 or 4 people that say, "Yeah, Scott, we'll fund that deal if it makes sense." And the numbers look good because I was like, "I'm going to drive down and look at this property this weekend, you know, and confirm the condition of the report." And I pulled comps. I think it'd be a great deal. Well, I had people in that 3 hours say, "Scott, we'll fund the deal with you. We'll go 50-50 on the deal. If you're going to do the work, we'll fund it plus the rehab at 600 grand." And sounds like a great deal. The numbers make sense. I was like, awesome. So I can't tell you how excited I was about that deal. And let me take that back. I got the story a little about it back. So Bob tells me, go ahead and make an offer. You help me out with this. Okay. So I make an offer that Friday to the guys. I said, okay, let me lowball it. And I make a lowball bid at 500, right? Well, Monday morning, I get a phone call from the guys and they're like, oh, hey, Scott, we like your offer. Can you come up to 515? Remember, they wanted 550. I offered 500 and he said 515. So I'm sitting there in the house, excited, but like, oh shit, right? And they're like, well, I'm like thinking to myself, well, I don't have 500. Why not? I don't have five. Yeah, sure, I'll go to 515. And the guys go, it's yours. Well, when I go to the office, I tell Bob this and I say, hey, how are we going to fund it? And that's where he tells me, no, you're going to fund it. You're going to find funding. And I'm like, oh crap. So it was a bit of a change there. I walk in pretty high on a Monday, and then I come down to reality. But then I didn't let a no stop me because it was a deal. The numbers made sense. So like I said, I just picked up the phone call, raised capital from 3, 4 people who said they would do it. I trusted them. And then I told the guys that had this deal that we were going to drive down Friday to take a look at it. Now I didn't have I didn't have the extra money for the earnest money or the option fee. So I turned to my buddy Boyd, who brought me in, the mortgage company, still a great buddy. And I said, hey, you want to do this deal together as well, kind of taking it down. We've got plenty of money in the back end. And he's like, yeah, sure, let's go do it. If it makes sense, we'll do it. I don't mind putting up the money initially to get paid or like that. So we drive down, stay at my mom's house one night, and then we get up and go to meet these guys and look at these properties. And we get to the first duplex. It's got a fresh coat of white paint on the outside, blue trim. And 2 of the guys, I guess, didn't live there. One guy lived in Corpus. The other 2 guys lived in Austin. And we're excited to see this property. I'm like, oh, you haven't seen the property? And the one guy says, oh, I'm the only one that's seen the property. I think his name was Will. But Jack and this other guy who are partners in Austin, like, oh, yeah, we're excited about this. This should be good. So we open the door to this first duplex and walk in, and the ceiling was bowed down and the floor was bowed up. I mean, not in a good spot. There was heavy cobwebs in this one side of the duplex. I was like, okay, all right. Maybe this is the one that needs the work. But it hadn't been lived in a while. And we go to the other side, and it was just as bad. And that kind of felt like a good kick in the shins or in the huevos, if you know what I'm talking about. So we proceeded to go buy 2 or 3 more duplexes. 2 other duplexes were okay. A couple had tenants in them. But we get to the 8-plex, and it's 2-story 8-plex. And you pull up to this thing, and it looked like something out of a Roach Motel. And it was a Roach Motel, basically. It had a lean on it, literally leaning to the left. Okay? They had cut off the doors to get into the bottom so the doors would actually open up. Going up the second floor, there was 2 dead rats or mice on the stairwell, roaches everywhere. There were 5 people living in this 8 units, and I'm like, oh, and they had the small stoves, and the small stoves hadn't been replaced in probably 20 years. They're coated with grease. I'm like, these are like fire hazards. And I asked the guys, can I see the insurance on this? Like, oh, there's no insurance on this thing. And I'm like, as I'm going through these, Boyd is a little good nature on that. I'm just getting quieter and quieter and quieter. And we get in the car to go back to this Bill Miller barbecue to talk about after looking at all of them. And I told Boyd, this is just this is a deal. We're not going to do that. So we get out of the car, and of course, this guy Jack, who's one of the 3, goes, all right, you ready to sign contracts and get your checkbook out? And I just looked at him. I said, we ain't signing shit today. And he got all mad. He wanted to get loud. And I'm like, listen, this deal is not as the photos look like. It looks like crap. And I was willing to go to blows as the guy wanted to throw down. I mean, he's a bigger guy than me, but hey, I'm no slouch. All right. I had him a quickness, But Boyd's still a little bit more diplomatic on that. And he's talking, well, guys, come on now. It wasn't as you showed it. It's not the properties. And through some talking, as we're sitting there eating barbecue, we find out that these guys had put it under contract sight unseen, and they just wanted to get their earnest money and option feedback. They wanted some other guy, some other schmuck to come in and sign it over that they would get their money back and they could walk away from it. Okay. But I'm sitting there eating barbecue, kind of sick to my stomach, right? I feel like a dog with his tail ducked between his legs because, when you're doing this kind of deal and you're around under financing, your mind starts to go creatively, especially to drive down. I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, here's how we could turn these into owner finance properties and give them cash flow, and these people could live here, all based on the numbers they gave us. We can do a first, a second, down payment, and then they're responsible for it, condo convert one, just all that good stuff that you would normally do. And I'm like, that was dashed 10 minutes into looking at the first couple properties. I'm like, man, what am I going to tell these people when we get back? So I get back Monday morning. Of course, we're not doing the deal. And I pick up the phone and call the 4 people who had said that they would fund the deal. And I told them what happened. And we all had a good chuckle, but each one of them said the magic word, call me on the next time. Call me on the next deal. Call me when you find something else. And that was an eye-opening experience because I'm not going to put somebody in a bad deal. I mean, you're a real estate investor, you're going to have deals that sometimes go south or stuff like that. Delayed in the note business, delayed foreclosures, people file bankruptcy, COVID kicks, and there's things that are going to cause it. And that's the one thing that you have to realize. If you've been around a long time, you've had issues, deals have gone south. It is what it is. You do the best that you can, you move on to the next one. It's not called guaranteed, it's called investing, right? But that deal that I didn't do, but I had faith in it, and as I went in the due diligence, it made me want to not to do the deal because it was a deal. But it built faith in myself that if I could find a deal, if I could find a good deal, there's money out there for good deals. You just have to pick up the phone and dial for dollars or email blast. Excuse me. Sneeze there. You have to do the work on your side to show the belief, to understand. Excuse me. Thank you. In getting commitment, and you got to believe in the deal. If you believe in the deal and it makes sense, guess what? And people have money sitting on the sidelines, they'll write a check or they'll partner when you write it. And that was story. I still believe this to the day is what's set me apart and realize if I can find a good deal and the numbers make sense, I can find good money. And that led to me doing more rehabs and doing some fix and flips and subject to deals and, buying small unit apartment complexes and flipping that paper when we got the paper from Capital One or others. And that was one of the stories that people realized that as I was talking to people, that story hit home more to them. Because a lot of times we doubt ourselves. We doubt our experience. We doubt our ability to get started something new. And you could be great at anything you've done beforehand, but if you're starting something new, we all have that uneasy subconscious feeling. But the whole point is still showing up. If you show up and you take action and you start putting the word out what you're doing, that's what separates the winners from the losers, more so than anything else. And of course, in sports, it's all about who scored more. Well, usually the person or the team or the individual that wins something is because they want it more. You got to want it more. We had a couple of friends that were supposed to show up to the class who wanted to do something different. They wanted to get into real estate. They want to get into foreclosures. They want to get into real estate investing. We gave them the offer to come because I'm like, hey, you've been wanting to do this. I've been in a class in a while, and then, of course, crickets. They say they're going to come and they don't show up. And you feel, for me, it's like I want that person to take the step. If you give somebody an opportunity, it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that person has been basically avoiding, well, it's been cold outside, so they've maybe not seen us. But the point I'm trying to get at is don't be that person because opportunities don't always come along in life. You have to understand when there is an opportunity and get out of your own head. And that's a lot of times the hardest thing. Because this 4 to 6 or 8 inches, however wide your head is between your ears, can be your biggest tool, your greatest advantage, or your biggest disadvantage, or your biggest handicap. You can if you can. It's like the words from Henry Ford. If you think you can or can't, you're correct. And that's the great thing that I loved about this class. Those that showed up had a belief that they can, and they've taken that next step. They're starting to make offers. We got a couple guys that are going to, one guy's going to buy a couple of notes from one of our coaching students. All right. Somebody else is going to partner up and fund some deals with somebody else. I mean, that's the greatest thing out there. I mean, plenty of deals coming in. I take that back. Plenty of tapes coming in. You just have to take the step to find a good deal. And guess what? If you find a good deal, there's money out there that will fund it if it's a good deal. Not a skinny deal, not a marginal deal, but truly a good deal. And that's the thing that I challenge you guys and gals, whether you're listening to this or watching the video, is if you find that uneasiness when you're about to take a step, whether it's making an offer or talking to somebody about investing, guess what? That uneasiness means you should do it. Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They say no. And that's one thing that they taught us in sales training. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? That person that you're talking about funding your deal, or that person you're reaching out to see if they've got any note tapes, what are they going to say? No, that's already happened. They're already not working with you, not funding your deal. Guess what? You can be more relaxed. Just go in and ask them a question. And no, to me, as they always taught us, is no doesn't mean no. It means not now. And all you have to do is have the confidence to pitch it, to talk about the deal, to do your due diligence. But you got to get off your ass and go make some offers or go get some tapes and dive into the deals to find the deals, to find the opportunities, to find the deals that are going to help you take that next step. Because the more often you do that, and the more often you get outside your comfort zone and you embrace that uneasiness feeling, that goes for everybody. That's the only way that you're going to find success. That's the only way you're going to grow in life, is those that have the most success are the ones that are more willing to get outside their comfort zone to do bigger deals and bigger things. Kind of like we had with Crystal and Rick Roomer on an early podcast, talking about how they went from that fix and flipping side to the land and owner finance and stuff and develop. Yeah, it takes time. It takes having a mentor. It takes having somebody help you along the way. But guess what? The only people that will limit you as investors is yourself. It's not a lack of money. It's not a lack of education. It's a lack of taking action. And that's the most frustrating thing as an educator, as an investor, that we see when we teach these classes and workshops and speaking all across the country, is you see the people that believe in themselves. You see the people that have faith in their abilities, and you see people that they need to work on that melon first. Because otherwise, if that melon is rotten, nothing that they do will pan out. If they have this big fear of not being worthy, they're going to struggle. Now, you can be the smartest person in the room when it comes to theory and be what's an educated idiot, but you got to take action. You got to make more offers. You got to buy for your own portfolio in the note business, not broker trying to flip to somebody else. Go buy something for stuff. Go make an offer on something and work through the deals. Look, I can't tell you how many deals I've worked through. I mean, I've worked through thousands and thousands of deals that we didn't bid on. Millions of assets, probably. But you know what? The ones we make offers on, I feel pretty good and confident about. Yeah, we still don't have 100% hit, closing ratio. As a new note investor, you're probably only have about a 10% closing ratio off the offers that you make. But guess what? 1 out of 10 ain't bad. If that 1 out of 10 that you make gets you a note every month and bringing in cash flow, and you add one new note a month and $400 a month on cash flow coming, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen, you're 23, 24 deals away from a 6-figure a year income on autopilot. So I challenge you guys all to go out and take some action. If you're still sitting on the sidelines not knowing how to get the ball rocking and rolling, or you're feeling that, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Well, guess what? You can do this. You can surround yourself. And the next opportunity for you guys to learn, we have not an in-person workshop. We won't have that till probably September. But our next online live workshop with yours truly is just under 66 days or 60 days. It's April 18th, 19th, and 20th. That's the next virtual note buying workshop that's going to be live on Zoom. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I encourage you to get signed up there. So just go to notebuyingfordummies.com, get signed up, take advantage of that discount that we have on there right now so you can get learning, get the ball rolling, and take your business and your life to the next level. So go out, take some action, everybody. Don't be afraid to say hello, dial for dollars, email. make that extra call, that extra text message, or that extra conversation, because it's doing that extra is going to help you win more. The person, the team that does more will often win. So go out.